Hello, and thank you for joining me for another ghost story. This is the third in the series. I'm trying to do one a week. Last time I brought the 17th century to you, and the time before that I brought the 1920s. The two stories were quite similar in some ways, in that they were very much traditional ghost stories, but very different in many other ways. This next one is very different to either of them. It's set in the medieval period, and I hope you enjoy it. Of course, it will be accompanied by music, much like the last one, so enjoy. We awoke from the winter dark, fields bare, earth frozen, and trees stark. From out the wattle insects crept, newborn lambs wandered from where they slept. To cold and famine many had succumbed, now they lay in soil entombed. The church it sank beside its graves, their shadows cast o'er the nave. And so we took to till the fields, praying for a better yield of oats and beans and barley grow, all the seeds that we did sow. Hundreds walked on empty land, cursed the soil that turned to sand, pleaded for rain which we'd been without, our graves could not stand another drought. And every night we'd sit and feast on the morsels we had left to eat. Our cattle, chickens, pigs were slain, nettles, leaves and roots need rain. Then one night, by the Witch's Cross, an ancient stand shrouded in moss, an unholy wail, a song did sound, a dark lament rose from the ground. No one heard this tune, save Jane, collecting wormwood for aching pain. She dropped her basket out of fright, expecting solitude in the fading light. From the dust this howl arose, Jane could not move, her body froze. Perhaps this could just be a fox, my paralysed state, just the shock. Just as quick as the sound arrived, it vanished into the ground and died. Jane, released from the fearful coil, fled home abandoning her evening toil. As she returned, flushed and short of breath, she remembered the basket she had left. In the morning she'd return to the Witch's Cross, draped in ferns. That night she told her tale by fire, as we all ate and laughed, our smiles burned brighter. But her face stayed stern as stone, for what she'd heard chilled her to the bone. I wish we'd not dismissed her words. 'Twas the next day that we heard a frightful sound ring through the air, a mournful wail we could not bear. Some say the song drove folk to the grave, but we knew the hunger was to blame. In any case, the sound we heard was sure enough not beast nor bird. The voice of a person, though not alive, ungodly as the snakes that writhe through dry grass as we starve, and every crumb of bread we halve. And so we ran to the Witch's Cross, where Jane was lying in the moss, still alive but fallen hard. The wail persisted like a piercing shard. I watched as the shriek turned men to madness, while others became absorbed by a dreadful sadness. Snapping out of fearful stupor, I peered through the morning vapours. Mist that lay low on the land draped round a figure who did stand, staring out but yards away, her skin pallid and her eyes so grey. It seemed 'twas she who cried out loud, a ghostly noise that whirled around, ringing deep inside our ears, evoking all our darkest fears. Then suddenly the crowd did see the dreaded figure in front of me. They turned to her and cried aloud, "Monster, villain, leave our town!" But rage and sadness filled her eyes, and louder she continued crying. With this the crowd's rage grew to thunder. It seemed the air was torn asunder. Now the figure stretched out her hands, began to walk across the land. No footprints did her pale feet cast, with every tree that she did pass. Then suddenly, on her approach, unconscious Jane from sleep awoke. A flash of fire lit up her eyes, and she joined in with the figure's cries. A harmony they sang aloud, of sorrow, and it stopped the crowd. No more monster, did they exclaim, for the truth of her now was plain. Her hand was pointing to a mound, marked by 2 small crosses in the ground. Here lay the bodies, now 50 years, of mother, child, and all their tears. Refused a grave by the church, for sins she bore against her worth, and so her cries were not of hate, but mourning her child, her heart did break. Now they rest in dust and dirt, but her figure walks the earth. Jane stopped crying, and so did Ghost, for now we knew she wanted most. We dug 2 young trees, Elm and Ash, for Mother Elm and Babe the Ash. Planted them at Witch's Cross, still shrouded in the ferns and moss. As we buried roots in soil, so the figure ceased her toil, and came to rest beneath the earth, for these new trees gave her worth. The next day the rains did fall, and within some weeks our crops grew tall. By winter time famine became feast, and Elm and Ash presided peace. The mournful cry is no longer heard, but the branches give life to many birds, and sometimes on a summer's day the mother and her child do play.